welcome everyone to this discussion about a commoditized channel and what that might look like for customers, for resellers, and for the future of the industry. I'm Lucy Green from LARATO. We're a business development specialist in the technology sector, and I'm joined today by two experts from Evolve IP. Jamie, if I could ask you to introduce yourself first, and then we'll come to you, Ross.
Sure, Lucy, thank you. So my name is Jamie Hughes. I'm the sales director for Evolve IP UK, and we're a service provider delivering white-labelled solutions into the channel, both domestically in the UK and further afield.
Fantastic, thank you. Over to you, Ross.
Hi there, my name is Ross Finch. I'm partner account manager here at Evolve IP, looking after some of our key strategic partners.
Fantastic. So you guys are both at the front end of the sales engine, kind of interfacing into what buyers really want to buy and what resellers are taking to market. So that puts you in an absolutely fantastic place to talk about our first question. There's been a lot of discussion about commoditization of the channel, and I think that some of that has come from prior history where services like hosted voice have become rapidly commoditized, almost a race to the bottom for price, whereas in fact that service is actually quite a valuable service. So what do you think in this time where we've got much richer service stacks, what do you think commoditization of the channel looks like for providers and end users? Shall I start with you, Ross?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the introduction of VoIP circa a decade ago, if not more, gave a huge opportunity to the more forward-thinking of resellers in embracing new technology and bringing it to marketplace. And we all know that throughout those years, there were some big players in the UK marketplace with a very large pool of strategic partners and resellers. And what I found, so I've come from a background of 10 years selling direct before I joined Evolve IP. And what you would find is that, in fact, you were in talking to prospects and talking to opportunities, but you'd be up against 3 or 4 other partners selling exactly the same product set. Inevitably, that led to a race to the bottom, and certain VoIP products very much got commoditized. I think over the last couple of years, we've pulled it back, but the introduction of new product sets such as Microsoft Teams Operator Connect poses a potential risk to bring us back into that race to the bottom and back into that commoditization.
Okay, thank you. And Jamie, how do you think we might be able to avoid doing something like that? Particularly with products like Microsoft, where the margins are famously not that brilliant.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think really what it comes down to is differentiation in the marketplace. Like Ross said, is kind of the market's been quite established for a while now, and I think where a lot of people do is kind of comparing apples with apples, and I think where you have to kind of do an apple to a pear scenario, and that's kind of where we sit really. We sit in the pair situation where actually we go on the merits of our solution, the products that we provide, and differentiate that way, and that way you can kind of disguise the race to the bottom because you can provide a superior product or a product that may tick more boxes for that end customer. So I think that's really the way that we try and position ourselves.
Okay. And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because I'd like to understand that kind of differentiation a bit better, if that's okay, because there are lots of ways of differentiating, and what you just described is product differentiation. And so is that the way that you differentiate yourselves to your partners?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so where you've got a lot of vendors out there, and what they would do is they're quite siloed products, propositions. Sorry. So where we are a little bit different is that we'll support analog we'll support IP, we'll support Microsoft, we'll support Teams, and you can blend the products out there to meet the profile, the requirement of the customer. Where we again a little bit different is we use kind of the best of breeds out there, so everyone's kind of running to Microsoft. Everyone's working with WebEx, or they might be working with Zoom. So what you find is actually the product set that people are utilizing is what everyone's kind of going to. So you could say that's the commodity, really. That's the product that people are going for. But where we do is we kind of collapse the barriers and go, well, actually, if you got some Microsoft Teams, well, actually, what about your door entry system? What about your fax machine? What about maybe your algo for an alarm or a tannoy or anything on those lines? So we're effectively the glue between the different solutions, and that's kind of one of the differentiations that we provide in the market. But then what you've also then got is you've got providers that can potentially only deliver services in a particular area or particular country. So we again differentiate ourselves by providing services to 70 plus countries. We're live today in 56. So, and that's where we've had some competition with some of the domestic providers, because they will only provide in the UK, or they might provide in Ireland, or they might provide in France, but they can't collapse that silo and provide a multinational, pan-European, pan-global service, which is where we fit.
Okay. So let me just replay that back, and perhaps Ross, invite you to come in. What I've heard you say basically is that you're differentiating on product by effectively aggregating different types of technology and enabling them to be used in a fairly seamless way by a reseller to support their end customers nationally and internationally. Is that fair?
Well summed up, Lucy.
Okay, good. So I'm on the right track. So what I'm really interested in now is that's great from a product perspective, but then you're going into a reseller, and what the end user really wants, and they've been saying this for some time now, is they want help to understand what technologies they should be buying, and what benefits they should be expecting from their businesses from these technology products. And so there is a bit of a gap to bridge, isn't there, between that kind of concept of product differentiation and that notion of business value. And I wonder how you would translate your product differentiation into business value for an end user, and how would a reseller access that?
I think it's we're in a position now where the end customer is more informed than they've ever been. The amount of literature, the amount of collateral that providers have out there enable the end user to do a significant amount more research than they've been able to in the past. If we kind of cast our minds back 15 years ago when we were still talking PBX, it's very difficult for, let's say, an IT manager or a CTO to really drill down on the technical specifications of a phone system, because it's not their area of expertise. Where now we're in a position where telephony, voice, UC very much is integrated into the rest of those business applications that an end user has. And therefore we need to change the conversations that we're having within customers. It's been fine historically to talk about good old-fashioned features and benefits, but actually what we try to focus on at Evolve IP is what's the problem that we're trying to solve. And if we can really kind of pull that conversation back round to a solutions sale, where we're identifying problems within the business, we're identifying where efficiency gains can be made, or cost savings can be made, then that adds a lot more value to the proposition that's being offered and the proposition that the salespeople are specifying. one of the nice things about partnering with Evolve IP is that we have a large team here, both from a sales and a solutions consulting perspective. So we're more than happy to join our resellers on those types of calls, and really kind of get down to the basics of what are we trying to solve, what problems are we trying to solve.
I would argue that the buyers have got too much information and are confused by what's on offer. And you know, they know the problem that they want to solve, but they don't necessarily know the right technology or best technology to solve it. And so I wonder, Jamie, what you think the answers to that kind of conundrum, that there's lots of information, maybe too much. Are buyers better informed, and what's happening with the resellers?
Yes, thanks, Lucy. So actually, last week, I remembered that I saw a post on LinkedIn, and on that post, it was quite a clear one. It basically said the post basically said that they've got 150 users. They would like a hosted solution. Can you please recommend someone? I only took that, saw that message last week, and that post had been live for about 3 weeks. And there was over 200 comments on that post, all from obviously it could be people that are in the industry, but it's most likely people that are trying to sell services, and they're all at different levels. Some of them are account managers, salespeople, and so on. So you're right, customers are better informed. I think there's every man and its dog basically that can sell a service into them, but I think what they will probably better off doing is actually speaking to their peers within the market, their industry, and then from that is understand actually, whilst they've got 150 users and everyone can make a phone ring, everyone can sell a service to accommodate those 150 users, but going into a deeper level, so kind of peeling back the onion, is actually what the challenges that they've got, and by speaking to their peers, understanding that they've got certain solutions in place, which might be a CRM for a particular industry. It might be a type of integration in there that they can then kind of go, right, actually I had the same problem because you're in the same boat, and maybe we've progressed 12 months, 18 months ahead of what you have, but this is the company that I've been working with. So I guess one of the things that we're seeing in the market is it's actually where people are moving to specific CRMs for certain industries, and that aligns very much with us. So we're very strong within the hospitality, automotive, retail, and financial sectors, and that's because that's where our partner base have got a real strong focus. It's not to say that we have got a customer or end user in Chinatown with a single decked handset. It just makes a phone ring, but it's having those specialisms that the partners can work with, and we can take our knowledge and support them with that. Also, we learn as well. So we've not always been in these industries, and then what we can then do is we can help other partners that work with Evolve to get into these industries, or if they do get an opportunity, to support them and support them where the challenges have been known previously.
Okay, thank you. And I think you mentioned that there was an example of a partner who wanted, as you say, to go a little bit deeper with their customer, and was then able to use your differentiated product to be able to access more business from within a particular account, and sort of brings us on to our last topic for today, which is about white space. And how do you see, there are two things happening in the market, really. There is the consolidation and aggregation of services like what you're doing, which gives you a richer offering through your channel base. And then from the buyer's perspective, they are looking to rationalize their supply chain. And so there is this kind of dynamic going on where the return on investment for understanding the white space in an account seems to be becoming more important. And Ross, what do you think about that?
White space is it's an interesting one. It's one that I've been close to over the years. Being in a direct role, you're very much taught that the ideal standard is to have as many of your products into a single customer at once. And for our typical resellers, voice will be one of those pillars, connectivity another, cyber another, etc., etc. Now, from an Evolve IP standpoint, we have our portfolio of products and services. And for our gold standard, it's for our resellers to be selling as many of those products as possible. Now, historically, it's been a case of salespeople out there taking the easy option. I'll sell a bit of voice, I'll get my seats, job done, on to the next one. And I think in the early days that was very much the case, because it was a one-size-fits-all model. They'd come in, they'd sell the seat, on to the next one. Whereas actually, as we've just been alluding to, if you're having a deeper conversation with your end customers, if you're really drilling down into what are their core business issues, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, what's the value that we're trying to add as a reseller, actually what it enables you to do naturally is to sell more of that portfolio. You can sell more products into that one customer. You can increase your average revenue per user quite dramatic. Voice seat, and again, a basic voice seat is not giving you any differentiation apart from the rest of the channel. But if you can go in and you can sell that voice seat, and you can provide tight-knit integration into their CRM platform, if you can provide them with the core recording and the AI driven analytics that sit behind that, then suddenly you've solved a whole load more problems for that customer. They then see the credibility that you add to the service. It makes them stickier. Everybody benefits.
Yeah,
I think that's how
box ticking and benefits. Yes, sorry, but box ticking and features and benefits just doesn't cut it anymore, does it? You've really got to partner with your partners and their customers to solve the problem, as you said. I was sorry to interrupt you. You got me excited. So, so thank you. That was really helpful. I think that was a really helpful point about value and white space and really understanding your customer, which is so critical.
Sorry, Lucy, just to add to Ross's point. So obviously we know the market really well, and we know the providers out there, the telecom or hosted providers out there. So when we engage with a prospective partner, we do the due diligence on that partner to understand who they're currently working with, and we have obviously going from a website. You have quite a clear indication of who they're working with. So kind of our white space really is going, right, actually, we know where they're having to say no for because they work with that certain provider or certain providers. Have the conversation with them. We kind of go, well, hang on a minute. Do you not have an issue with supporting analog devices? Because analog devices are not just in residential homes, but they're also in hospitals, also in care homes, also in retail space, they're also in the leisure industry, hotels and so on. So as soon as we get that, we kind of go, well, actually, we kind of spur them on, and they go, actually, yes, we've got customers in that space. Well, how are you providing a service to them? Because if you're providing a service through X provider, we know that they don't support it. So that's when we get into quite an interesting conversation, and that's the white space where it starts to actually trigger them to go, no, you're right. We've had to say no to these customers. So then we kind of go, well, actually, you wouldn't have to say no if you work with a provider like us. And for us, it's kind of understanding the challenges that they have, and for kind of saying filling that white space. So obviously, from the partners having a conversation with customers, that's obviously important. But it's also understanding our partners or prospective partners where they have challenges and how we can help them.
And of course, the PSTN switch off is just jam-packed full of those analog device challenges. So there's a lot of opportunity for partners. and it sounds like you've got something that can bridge that gap, which is good. Overall, I think what we've talked about hasn't really been a commoditized channel. It's been about a channel that's in transition and is trying to add more value by helping customers to solve their problems. And you want to put your resellers on the front foot in that regard, to help them transition businesses successfully from a legacy technology to new, and help them achieve the kind of the business objectives that they want to. So I think we're kind of moving away really from a commoditized channel, and I just wondered what you think, just to close it off with, that if we take that as kind of one of the takeaways of our discussion, that the channel doesn't need to be commoditized because there is so much richness in there, and there is so much value that the technology can add to businesses. Where do you see kind of the big opportunities for resellers? What are your top two? Let's start with you, Jamie. What are your top two opportunities for resellers?
Yeah, I think the where resellers need to differentiate themselves, and Ross mentioned it earlier, just around kind of the 2, 3, 4 providers potentially selling the same products, potentially selling it a similar amount, and ultimately what you can argue about is the cost, because the service is the differentiation. The price is the differentiation, but not the service, and that's where you get the commoditization in there. Is there's no differentiation in there. So first of all, you've got to differentiate yourself as a business, and you may do that with different practices, but also the products, the service that you're offering. So I think where I mentioned, obviously the verticalization is one big one for us, and it's how we differentiate ourselves in a very congested market. There's also the international piece as well, because when you're in a commoditized market, it is a race to the bottom, and you're having to work harder for less. And I think when you start being specialized in a certain sector, and when you start kind of going after the kind of largest SME market, the enterprise market, the global market, it's a little bit different, because if you're solving a problem, if you're not solving a problem, you're going to be in a commoditized situation, and it's a race to the bottom. If you're solving problems, and you're solving problems of a magnitude that there's less people in that space, that's when you're not in a commoditized situation. We had a scenario, I'm going to talk about white space, but we had a scenario. One of our partners, they had a customer of theirs, they were a mobile account. They only had 20 mobiles with them. When an account manager went into them, it was a different account manager to the one that they had a longer term. But when in there, and what they realized is actually they're part of a much larger organization. So when they kind of, let's say, take the layers of the onion away, is actually they found out that a multi-international organization with over 10,000 employees. So when they start having those conversations around, right, actually, not just siloed, you're a location in a couple of locations in the UK, but you're in America, you're in South America, you're in Africa, you're in Australasia, and so on, was actually, wouldn't it be great if you could have a single provider? So our partner, as an example, a single provider providing telephony into all 24 countries. You've got one point of contact, because that's one of the big things that we're seeing, is that technology is so interconnected now, is that you want all your eggs in one basket generally. So they went in there and they won that against some large US telcos. And the reason why they did that is because frameworks based on legislation, based on commercials, currencies, and so on, they couldn't provide a global solution that was as easy to deal with as it was through us and our partner. So I think that's really where the commoditized channel is if you want to get out of it, you need to step up and you need to be providing services that your competition can't do.
And listening out and asking all those questions, which I'm sure that partner did.
Yes, exactly, the white space.
Yeah. So Ross, what's your top tip for an opportunity?
A top tip for an opportunity. Referenceability and credibility, which I think go very much hand in hand. Is a similar conversation to that of verticalization. You mentioned earlier that customers know what their problems are. I would agree with that most of the time, but actually quite often customers aren't aware what potential problems they might have. So using your existing customer base as your references, I find it very useful to be able to go into prospect, go into an opportunity and say, look, we've worked with businesses like yours, we understand your industry, and for other customers that were in a similar position, these are the problems that we solved by implementing this type of technology, and these were the benefits and the gains that this customer saw off the back of that deployment.
Yeah. I mean, I really agree with that. I think when I say that customers know what their problems are, they know what their business problems are, so they know what's kind of getting in the way, but they don't necessarily know the right thing to adopt. And peer referencing, I think, is very important, and actually nurturing that. As a reseller, if you're doing a good job with one customer, then just make sure that you're spreading that word or asking your customer
Absolutely.
to give you feedback that you can share with others. Because I agree that if you just sell off features, then you will be competing with everybody else, and at that level you have to be the lowest cost base, not the lowest cost. Because if you don't have the lowest cost base, you can't be the lowest cost and make money. And the opportunity for the reseller is to really get themselves aligned with their own customers who are spending like they haven't done in about a decade. Budgets have gone up by 3 or 4% just over the last 12 months. So it really is a sort of now or never, if you like, time to help those customers make the changes that they want to, and engage with integrated technologies like the ones that you guys offer.
Absolutely. And just touching on the international piece that Jamie mentioned, we've worked with a number of new partners recently for international deployments, and there are a couple of other kind of large US based telcos out there that will enable you to sell products into an international space. However, their business model is very much a dealer model. So no problem at all. We can enable you to deploy in Italy. However, it's going to be on a dealer model. So we'll build a customer direct and we'll give you a nice bit of commission at the end of the month. Now that's fine. However, the vast majority of resellers, especially our resellers, would much prefer to keep that true wholesale relationship where they retain the full support relationship, the full billing relationship with the end customer, because without that relationship, your capability to fill that white space and cross-sell your portfolio into that customer is severely diminished.
So and it hurts the customer.
Exactly that.
Yeah, it hurts the customer, the relationship that a reseller can have with a customer by being able to support them, by getting to know them, by all the rest of it, I think is really, really the future for the channel.
Yeah, I think the dealer model actually helps commoditize the channel, because
I agree.
when you're a service provider, like Ross mentions, the large two large international or US telcos, is all they're providing is voice services. So they're not providing connectivity, IT, mobile, any other services. So then if you had a comparison, you're just comparing their product with another product. It's just voice.
Indeed. Well, that sounds like a great note to finish on. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that everyone has enjoyed listening to how to avoid commoditization in the channel and go out there and grow your businesses. So thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you, Ross. And thank you, everyone, for listening.